Last week on the National STEM Championship, our first 8 schools put on their wits and knowledge to the test in the quarterfinals. They solved equations, lost themselves in mirror mazes, built bridges, and thankfully didn't destroy them, and so much more. From biology to coding, these 8 teams pushed themselves to excel. Now it's your turn to sit back and relax as we follow another 12 schools who will battle it out here on the National STEM Championship quarterfinals. Welcome to the National STEM Championship. I'm Sonia Chu. Now, if you're not sure what STEM stands for, it means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. 26 schools have made it to the quarterfinals. Congratulations and well done. They have to face off in a series of 6 unique challenges. Now, tonight, 12 more schools will be butting heads in these 6 stations as well, and they are North Vista Secondary School, Swiss Cottage Secondary School, Nanyang Girls High School, Hua Yi Secondary School, Sinmin Secondary School, Raffles Institution, NUS High School of Math and Science, School of Science and Technology Singapore, Yuanqing Secondary School, Victoria School, Catholic High School, Bukit Panjang Government High School. Each team was given 2 chemistry equations to solve. After they solved each equation, they had to send 2 team members into the mirror maze to find the balls labeled with the right elements to form the answer to the equations.
When we actually got the questions, we tried to use the reactants that were given and methodically figured out what could lead to the possible products.
Inside the mirror maze was fun, but actually solving the thing was hard as we didn't know many of the ways to solve it. Yeah.
I found it rather difficult. I don't know the topic.
I think it was a little challenging because there are some elements or some molecules that we are unsure about.
It was very confusing, so we weren't able to finish the equation.
The chemistry challenge are meant to be difficult and sometimes meant to really test your knowledge and how you navigate around difficult problems you may not have the solution to.
I was just trying to balance the equations first, but then I was really excited to get into the maze. But then once I got into the maze, I kind of got lost. Now I saw mirrors.
The mirror maze is very complicated and takes a long time to navigate. And when teammates are inside the maze, there is no way to communicate with teammates outside the maze.
One part of the team that had to go solve the equations and the other one had to go collect the materials, and all the materials were inside the very last part of the maze, which caused a lot of delays, I would say.
When we're in trouble, we cannot find our way out. We teamed up with the opposing team.
With enough teamwork, you can indeed achieve things that you can't achieve as a singular person.
The product, which is ethanoic acid, the first part is CH3. And then since this is a carboxylic acid, it will have the COOH group at the end.
We assume propylene was C3H6, and then we assume that the final product is isopropyl alcohol.
The competition was fun, and the teamwork is also great. We demonstrated it in the maze.
It's quite fun. Also helps us apply what we have learned during chemistry lessons.
Many found the maze disorienting, of course, but quickly found that teamwork was the key. Well done, students. Now, I for sure would still be lost in that mirror maze walking to my own reflection, 100%. But coming up next is time to move on to the next challenge, where they will be building bridges, not burning them, mind you. And did you know that there are 7 different types of bridges? Who ever knew? We'll find out what the students are about to construct in the Build a Bridge Challenge. The Build a Bridge Challenge involves a feat of engineering, which is definitely one of my strong suits, clearly. Luckily, the students were also well prepared. They had to construct a bridge with an arch in just 10 minutes. But first, they had to roll a die which would decide which material they had to use. Then, their bridge was put to the test when balls of varying weights were rested on them.
Swiss Cottage Secondary School, y'all managed to get the ping pong ball, the tennis ball, the marble, as well as the sepak takraw ball. So that gives you a total of 10.5 points for the balls that you managed to balance on your bridge. That's actually a really good score.
Choosing the grooves over tying the strings is the better option. So then it will be more stable and it won't collapse.
We took the felt cloth stacked 3. And then we wanted it to hold all the balls, so we decided to use the paper clips instead to make it movable so we can adjust to every single ball.
We decided to go for like a square formation because we thought that would be the most stable to balance the bigger balls on top, and we used the string to like wrap around the square so that it can fit the smaller balls at the same time.
For our design, it is low because we want to maximize its stability so it can put as many balls that can achieve the greatest amount of points.
The thumbtacks we pierce through the wooden planks at the bottom. We use them to also go through the newspapers, which will allow us to our bridge to get some extra height.
At first, we didn't really get the materials we wanted. Like, we didn't really prefer the balloon, and like we didn't really know what to do with it. And then we met a lot of like crises.
Honestly, I'm surprised it could withstand such weight put on it. So I thought that using 2 ice cream sticks as the balance was a really smart idea, and it was formed by my teammates, of course.
Not only was the bridge tested for its ability to withstand the heaviest load, but also for its height and the students' teamwork. Thankfully, none of the bridges went falling down. Well done, students. Now, with that bridge crossed, it's time to go for a quick break. When we come back, lots of exciting challenges ahead. One that will test our knowledge in biology, and our students become the senpai and teach us something. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the National STEM Championship. Now it's time to arm ourselves with some biology knowledge and take a deep dive into our anatomy. Now, students were given a case study about coronary artery disease, so let's find out more. The teams had a mere 15 minutes to answer 4 questions. They had to work out the genetic dysfunctions present in an individual so as to improve clinical management of coronary artery disease. With all that figured out, they had only 5 minutes to present their answers.
Welcome to today's episode of Gene Cardio, where we talk about how genes can affect your cardiovascular health. So, for the first question, we have a patient presenting with a family history of heart attack and cholesterol levels. Well, what is wrong with this patient? Well, the missense mutation F216L is found at the crucial PCSK9 gene. Now, what this gene does, in this case, a missense mutation refers to a wrongly expressed protein.
You all did a very good job, and you were able to present all the answers clearly, and you definitely understood the mechanism well.
The reason why we say it's aorta arteries because arteries transport blood away from the heart.
Initially, we were very nervous, especially seeing from the fact that we knew nothing about the subject. But we managed to strategize. We did eventually understand the concepts and present them well.
PCSK9 binds to LDLR, and that inhibits the PCSK9 from functioning and regulating.
The main problem was that we really didn't understand the scientific paper given because it used a lot of scientific terms that we aren't familiar with. And the concept was rather hard.
I don't think it was too difficult, but I hope it was challenging, gets them to think a bit as well, and hopefully they learned a bit as well.
People with familial hypercholesterolemia, they are known to have elevated levels of this blood LDL level, so we thought that this is probably a warning sign that he might have this disease.
He was also identified to have a potential pathogenic mutation of the gene PCSK9, and mutations are hereditary and they are passed on.
So it has already been proven through Sanger sequencing that incorporating terminating codons into the gene in vitro is effective to cause mutations and will...
We feel relatively confident in our content, but we all feel that our presentations could have been more engaging and lively.
The gene actually promotes LDL receptor degradation. So receptors actually remove LDL from the person's body. So this means...
I think most of the schools did very well. So I was very impressed by how they could come up with the answer in such a short time. Even if they didn't get exactly the right answer, they were very able to think through the problem very well. Many of them seemed very well prepared. They already read up on the subject.
Now that we're done with the mutation challenge, the students are about to be thrown for a loop as they become the teachers themselves. That's right, they will have to answer some primary school students' questions in the Kids Ask segment. Let's take a look. It was time to put on the teacher's hat and answer some children's questions. But first, they had to pick their question from a box. Then they had a scant 10 minutes to discuss before presenting their ideas in 5 minutes.
Why does rainbow have 7 colors?
The children asked such good questions. If only I had the thought to ask these questions when I was a kid. The questions had to do with physics or biology, and in some cases, combined sciences.
Red, blue, and yellow. And this color form white. And when it exits the water droplets, it gets refracted more into the secondary colors, and which is why there's 7 colors.
Maybe there are more than 7. It's just that we cannot see using the human eye.
Can I flip the question around to ask, can I combine the 7 colors to make white light? How do I do that?
Okay, so these 3 lights or different colors will hit on the same point, and when it goes through the prism, it will invert itself opposite to this and come back as one ray of white light.
I think I asked them a question that might have been a bit tricky, but they came up with the right answer, which is to invert the prism to try to get the light to combine back. So again, very impressive.
Each colors, they bend differently. Some bend more, some bend less. That's why you'll see the rainbow, it has like an arc and U shape.
Instead of saying like reflection, they actually uses terms like bend the light so that it's easier for the primary school students to understand.
How does a caterpillar become a butterfly?
Oh, what a beautiful butterfly. How I wish I could be like you. Instead, I'm just a tiny little caterpillar.
Don't worry, young one. You are still in the larvae stage of our life cycle. Eventually, after you eat a lot, you have sufficient energy to become a pupa.
The presentation is brilliant. I would say brilliant because they are able to illustrate the points very clearly, and they managed to also highlight the terms and all this information. Everything is good.
So firstly, a caterpillar starts out as a very tiny insect. It seems to have many legs, but actually it only has 6. The rest are what we call false legs.
For Nanyang girls, they explained through pictures which will make sense for primary school. So I think good showing.
Why do I float on water?
The reason why you float on water is when you breathe in air, the air fills up your lungs. Since the air is less dense than water, the air will help you float on the water.
They managed to get the key points, which is of the density and the buoyancy, and they also took pains to make sure that we understood the term density as well.
How does a car move?
Daddy, how does a car move? You know, when I wind my toy car, right, it only moves for a while and then it stops.
It made it kid-friendly by incorporating a lot of things that they might have observed in their daily life, such as how come that their toy cars can move only a short distance, but cars on the road can continue moving for very long distances. In cars on the road, they use a special type of energy called fuel.
His presentation was a little bit of song and dance, which was also nice. They obviously have prepared for presentations like this before. And I think they really covered a lot of concepts on a piece of paper, so that's also quite impressive.
Fuel is consisting of thousands of fossilized plants and animals from many years ago, which have stored energy for many years. So this energy can be harnessed in the form of fuel and help the car to move.
Based on the diagram here, we can see that we have indicated friction. So when the car is moving forward,
I like the Q&A session whereby they explain like how energy is converted. They make it very short and sweet and simple.
How does a bee collect pollen?
The bee behaves just like us. Just like when you smell like something delicious, like let's say cotton candy, you would follow that trail and just see where it's coming from. The bee would do the same.
I was actually very impressed because they were able to answer the question about alternative forms of pollination. That's quite deep information.
For a human, you can just simply take a brush to just brush off some of the pollen and brush it onto the stigma of another flower. It would still make the same effect.
How is fire made?
Wow, what a beautiful campfire. I wonder how it works.
Well, we can feel the heat from fire, and heat is actually a transfer of thermal energy from the surrounding to your body. All the stuff around us is made of tiny particles, and when these tiny particles hit each other, we create heat. Fire can also be used in many different things besides campfires, such as fireworks.
They're really trying to relate to young kids have seen to talk about fireworks, talk about barbecue. I think that's overall very interesting.
Is there a way to drop an egg from a building without breaking it?
When an egg is falling down, it is not the act of falling down, but the fact that the egg suddenly hits the hard floor. For example, if you fall down a ladder, you don't get hurt when you're falling down. You get hurt when you hit the floor.
So basically, the parachute is something that slows down the speed of how fast the egg is going to move.
How do you make that hexagon shape? Like, what kind of materials have you considered to make that shape?
Skewers, like the wooden skewers that you put in the barbecue. It's very thin, but it's made out of wood, and it's very easily available in a lot of shops. So you'll be able to DIY with the parents, maybe using glue, hot glue gun to glue it together, and use some normal string, if it's possible, elastic string to help support the egg there.
They really thought through it, and they thought about different elements and even what to use to build it together, things that are familiar to kids.
Congrats on passing that hurdle. Now it's time to go off for a break, but when we come back, students attempt to crack a code without cracking their brains too much, and beeswax and hot water, not a good idea, right? We'll find out after the break. Welcome back to the National STEM Championship quarterfinals. Now, in this second last station, students get to play with a remote control car. Sounds fun? Yes. Easy? Maybe not so much. And that's why we call it the Robotic Car Challenge for a reason. Let's take a look. In just 10 minutes, they had to play with the car. Sounds simple, right? But not. Based on the car's movements, they had to write a code for it. Then it was all about hustling to present their codes in 5 minutes.
Now, the thing about a microcontroller like microbit is that it is very strict. It will only do whatever that you tell it to do and nothing else. Unlike us humans, we can get contextual knowledge and decide our next actions. The microcontroller will do exactly what you tell it to do.
For this robot, there are two features on it. One is the LED lights and the other one is the motors. We covered both features of the car, and we included live demonstrations to clearly explain particularly the motors part.
So when we press the left button, the right wheel moves, causing the whole robot to turn left. And when we press the right button, the left wheel moves and the entire robot turns left.
We understood that when we press A, it turns right. We looked at the circuitry and found out that motor 1 was the one that was moving when we wanted to turn right. Because I have done coding before, I started on Scratch quite a long back, so I know quite a bit of coding.
Also, we noticed that if you press both the buttons at the same time, the car will move forward. I would like to say that we did relatively well. I think we managed to code out and figure out most of the components that the car did. Even though we did miss one part in the explanation, I think we did relatively well overall.
And we show the arrow going forward with both wheels left and right moving forward at a speed of 25.
If it's in the idle state and no buttons are pressed, that means it will show an X instead of any arrows.
The team actually really was very cohesive, was Catholic High, because they managed to really have the very good process flow which many of the schools missed out on, and they were able to be very coherent in what they're saying, how their codes work.
The Catholic High team is the first team that we have today that actually captured most, if not all, of the components that we need.
I think we managed to do well because being a programmer myself has been insanely useful in this challenge. It was a pretty simple algorithm to create, so we could make the algorithm pretty easily within the 10 minutes given.
Now, we're down to the last challenge. The question is, how do you keep beeswax from melting over hot water? You keep it afloat on a little boat, of course, but that's the challenge, isn't it? The heat is on. Students had to construct a boat that would keep the beeswax from melting in hot water. At the end, the remaining beeswax was weighed. Fingers crossed.
The plastic and 1 kilo paper.
We had a genius idea. Basically, put our toothpick upside down so that it's facing the water and won't absorb much heat, while the beeswax is not in contact with the water.
We're going to choose a plastic sheet and a glass. We didn't spend much time discussing of which material to use. We just did it.
Could we have just one of the tape?
We use aluminium raft, and we also place felt cloths on top of that to insulate the beeswax to keep it from melting.
One plastic sheet and one masking tape. Okay.
I can do
We actually use a felt cloth and paper, and then we wrapped our beeswax with felt cloth and wrapped it up and stapled it using paper.
So we use aluminium because we could form the shape of a boat so that it will float on the water. We used the felt cloth because we thought it was a good insulator of heat.
Plastic sheet. Okay, thumbs up. We will lower your beeswax into the tray together. Calculate high, all the beeswax have melted. Bukit Panjang, 3.66. Both group melted. And yes, high, 3.69. SSB, 3.54. Jimin, 3.66. 3.33. Yeah. Both teams, 0. Swiss Cottage, 3.58. Okay, thank you very much.
And that was the final challenge. Well done, students. You have been through the fire. Now it's time to give yourselves a high five. So it's come down to this. Who will move on to the semi-finals? Out of 26 schools, only 12 will make it. As for tonight's 12 schools, here are their rankings. Well done, everyone, but will their performance be enough to put them through to the top 12? Find out in the next episode of the National STEM Championship. Look forward to more mind-boggling mirror mazes. We've also got bridges being built or burned, you never know, and more. Meantime, I'm Sonia Chu. I'll see you next time.
Balls around it, let's